If everyone else can hear it, then yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, y'all can hear? Yes, I see. I can hear you. Okay, y'all can hear both of us. All right, well, welcome. So Matt here, that video went viral.
Mm-hmm.
So I we spoke a bit in the DM. He requested to kind of defend himself and explain a bit more. And because that DM went, I mean that DM, that video went viral, I wanted to give you an opportunity to do so. Of course, we stitch videos and things like that and add our opinion, but you can never have enough context until you actually speak with them. So today I wanted to, allow Matt to come in and kind of explain a bit more. We're here to listen, to kind of see his mindset, explain a little bit more about what was going on and where he come from. We're just here to observe. So this is not any sort of debate. This is not us trying to change anyone's mind, just kind of letting him explain. So you're welcome.
All
So I
right.
don't know if you want to go through, you don't have to go through the entire story again, but long short story, I guess you can sum up what happened.
Yeah, I can summarize. All right. Yeah, I appreciate you putting me in front of your audience to let me do this because
Yeah.
I guess I already was getting negative comments before your video.
Yeah, and
Maybe they like
yeah.
doubled. I don't think I definitely can't blame you for all of them because the nature of the comments, even if there weren't as many, like it didn't change that. People didn't like this video before you made yours, so
Yeah.
yeah, that's on me for sure. So just to like clarify where I'm at, like what I'm doing, I'm definitely in an experimental phase of trying to figure out like my life and career making content. And so a lot of what I'm doing is me trying to figure out how how well the algorithm pushes different styles of speaking that I have. If I frame a story one way versus framing a story another way, if I
Mm-hmm.
leave certain details out, if I keep it more vague versus telling a literal version of events, like how do people respond to me and how many views does it get? Because I'm not just worried about the view count, I also want to see how people actually receive what I'm saying. Like, is my
Okay.
message clear enough? And I think the sweet spot, honestly, is that your message is both clear and the view counts are high. But sometimes being more polarizing, and actually, it's not just sometimes, I think almost always being more polarizing leads to more views, which is what happened here. So, on some level, this was like a complete and utter failure, and on some level, it worked. And so, I'm a little like, I've been conflicted. Do I even leave this video up? Because I also don't want to hide from it.
Right.
But I have more views on all of my other things as a result of it, partly because of you. So to summarize what actually happened, there's a few contextual details that I left out. Like one, for example, as is that the interaction actually ended up with us exchanging numbers and like a few texts, which I
Okay.
guess could still like you could still make the case like she was just doing that to placate me because of fear or something. But whatever. I'm just, like that detail is not in the video. And then for whatever reason, there's a couple word choices that I made that while I was saying them to the camera, I sort of like something clicked into my brain that like I know this is going to be taken a certain way. Like I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
just say that me writing they don't know what they want is like I made a mistake. Because my actual view is that like and I have other videos on this. I think like I make philosophical points about how I think like people's raw intentions and their true
Mm-hmm.
motivations for things are sort of a mystery to them. And like I would include myself in that. I would include every human being that's ever lived in that. I think it's actually impossible at a literal level to understand all of your motivations and like where your will comes from foundationally. So, when I sort of mix these things together and I let it be implied that I'm saying women don't know what they want, like
Mm-hmm.
I don't often do this, but in that video, I sort of took what in my brain I know is like a valid and fair point, and I let it be represented as though I was saying something that for sure is misogynistic. And I think I didn't realize how much I let it be seem that way until the video was posted and a couple comments started coming back to me. And then it became a decision of, do I just redo this video? But like, it's getting a lot of engagement. And as I've kind of thought about it, it just seemed like the video would allow for a chance for more clarification. And so my decision was just to leave it, even though the way that I outlined the situation is not how I would do it if I were to actually tell the story.
Okay. So you said that the I guess the perception you got from her response to you, that you were basically being disingenuous. You said that those thoughts were valid. So what made you feel like, I don't necessarily want to harp on her specifically because it's not really about her as an individual, but like you said that those thoughts are valid. And I don't disagree, right? On my platform, I'm very clear, and most of my work is about women. Of course, we are on Earth together. But what makes you feel that's a valid thought, that women don't know what they want?
Well, again, I think nobody at all knows what they want. If we're talking like in a zoomed out philosophical sense, as in like, if I try to explain like why I wanted a burrito today instead of pizza, I can sort of re-rationalize why I chose that. But fundamentally, there's something happening within my brain, like on the unconscious level, the environmental factors, my genetics, all sorts of things, that even a decision that seems like that simple, where it's like I get to choose either one, like we can go into a whole free will rabbit hole. But like the problem that I've realized is half the time in my videos, I'm talking about very practical things. And then in my other half of videos, I'm talking about very like out there spiritual concepts. And so when I merge them, and I'm not blaming the audience for this, like I'm intentionally confusing the viewer by doing that.
Okay.
So I realize I do say in the video that the problem of not knowing what you want is more a female problem than a male problem. And I think I would stand by that in a very like marginal sense. Like I think the reason that I would say that's true, that it's a little bit harder for women to know what they want than men, like very slightly, because I do think this is for everybody.
Why do you feel that way?
I think it's
because I don't disagree. I kind of agree, actually. But why do you appreciate
you actually agree with some of my points in your video. Like there's obviously a lot of disagreement, but some of it you actually say you agree, like the fact that women are testing. And I think this is all linked together, is that like what women need from men is like it's a lot more stuff. You need like the attraction is less physical, like it's more based on vibe and confidence and charisma. Although charisma, we can get to that as a word specifically. I'm happy to debate it, but let's just say vibe, like the personality. Like women need more of that just for being attracted alone on average. And then safety is yet another concern that like men are not often having when they're trying to scan somebody. Like men go up to women in a bar, even if the approach is the opposite. Like I have never, there's maybe been twice in my whole life where the idea like, am I safe right now, has even entered my mind. So basically, because women are scanning for more things, there's more potential to be confused, not because there's less capacity in the brain to analyze it. There's just more stuff to care about. That's really what it comes down to, I think.
Okay. That makes sense. So a quick question. So of course I looked at a few of your videos, and I do actually like that you are a deep thinker. I do like that you take a philosophical approach, because so do I. But that being said, do you have like an overall goal, or what is your overall goal for like, what do you do? Like when you go out, you're outside, you're meeting women, or you're engaging, is it like a social experiment, or what is the goal for, I guess, what you do in the platform you're trying to build?
Well, okay, I guess those are two different questions. Like my personal goal and my career goal are linked, but they're different. So I guess like part of my brain when I'm out socializing is like I'm trying to meet someone that I connect with, just full stop, like that's the goal.
Right.
And then other times it's kind of like I'm gathering information so that I could come back and teach it to other people. So I realize like there's a bit of a conflict there where I'm doing two things that are a little bit in contradiction at times. Because most
Okay.
people are not doing that. Most people are just trying to better themselves, like better their own life. They're trying to meet someone where they have a good time at minimum, like if nothing else, like a good experience. So yeah, I'm like genuinely trying to connect with people, but then I'm also trying to like internalize lessons because part of my goal for my life is to teach other men things that are actually useful. So
Okay. So is there a point in these interactions where you separate the two, like where
yeah,
you now choose that, okay, I'm going to take the personal route, or this is just going to, I'm going to continue this interaction so that I can learn something to share?
yeah, I think that happens almost instantly. Like
Oh, okay.
if there's actually like a real connection or at least the potential for one within the first minute, like
Mm-hmm.
it just becomes that. It's like, all right,
Okay.
we're just vetting each other as potential partners. I
Okay.
think it can sometimes go back the other way if it like if the vibe decreases and it's like because that's what happened in this particular thing I made the video about. There was like genuine interest at first, then there was sort of this like meta conversation that ensued from the thing that she said to me, like that she felt like what I was saying was on purpose, even though she really liked it. And then we sort of like it then went back into like, oh, we're like in lesson like intel gathering mode again. So that was an
Okay.
inherently confusing interaction. That's not normally what happens. It went from like I
Okay.
don't know to like we're into each other back to like no, this is not that anymore.
Okay. So do you feel like that was both of y'all's experience, or both of you were confused, or do you feel like that was just you?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay. That it was both?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So how did she react to, because I'm more so interested, do you feel like a lot of men kind of operate like this, or do you sort of operate like that just because you have a purpose, like, and like this could turn into something I can share for other men?
Yeah, I think almost nobody is thinking about any of this stuff almost ever. Like I not to say I'm like unique when I describe myself as unique, it's both an insult
Mm-hmm.
and a compliment to myself. Like I understand it's just different. Like it's neither and it's
Got
both.
you. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think
Got you.
almost
Okay.
any other. I know a handful of them, but it's it's less than 1/10% of the male population is like trying to learn actively from their social experiences.
Okay. So when you are like generally engaging, maybe you haven't decided to, pursue someone, is there a point where, because one of the biggest issues a lot of people have, which before I even made a video about it, I saw people in the comments like you mentioned, was the dismissal of like what she was saying that you said, and you were like, oh well, I was at the best that I could be,
Mm-hmm.
and I was being charismatic and all of that. So I feel like it's a disconnect between the interpretation, and that's where I agree, where some women do not know what they want, or we women are conditioned to override that for whatever purpose, for whatever their, maybe her desire is to meet a man, and she'll choose to ignore that. But the biggest issue that women had collectively was feeling like that was dismissed, which is triggering for many women because it's something that we actually all experience all the time. So it was interesting that you felt like you just needed to either readjust what you said, that you were at your tip top shape. Because, like, do you understand what part was dismissive, basically?
Yeah, well, if you're talking about the part like the 10 out of 10 version of me and like that as a red flag, is that kind of what you're getting at?
Sort of, but more so on a larger scale.
Yeah.
I mean, it's up to you to determine whether you believe you were on 10 out of
I
10.
mean, like the fact that
But
I consider myself to have different levels in different situations. Just that as its own
okay.
point.
Okay. So if you felt that you were a 10 out of 10 in that interaction, why do you feel it was not reading across 10 out of 10 to her?
Well, I think it was until the point where the thing that you agree with that I think most people actually disagree with is
Uh-huh.
that women are testing men. And what's funny is I've made videos about this before, and men will generally comment and say, like, if she tests you, get rid of her. Like, no
Mm-hmm.
honorable woman would test a man like this. The good ones don't do that. And I just fully disagree with that. Like, of course you're testing. Of course women are testing men. How else are they supposed to learn anything about them? Because they're testing, especially and this wasn't a date. This was like someone that I approached in a bar, and at the time where, I mean, the whole thing was an hour.
Okay.
The whole thing was probably about an hour. So in that short of an amount of time, even if she really liked everything that was happening, I think it makes perfect sense that she would kind of poke at me to be like, is this just, are you just having a good night? Like, are you just in the zone right now? Is this really you? Can I like throw something at you to catch you off guard to see if you really are the person you're presenting? And that's both,
Okay.
I think, for safety reasons and also for like trying to gauge like how into this person am I. I think it actually is for both things.
Yeah.
But I think the point of I have different modes, and then I'll come back to like why I think I was at like how I know I was, or I guess what you're asking is if I was doing so well, why would she have a rejection? The biggest problem with the video is I shouldn't have used the word rejection. The word rejection, I think in my brain was like, I'm trying to make the video do better, which is basically why I said it, which is a lesson for me to like be more clear with my words. Because I guess I'll just get into the specifics of it. When she said the thing to me, like the vibe behind it, and I'm not going to say I'm the best at reading people ever, but it felt flirtatious. Like there was a positive energy to it. And I've been out enough that I think at least the majority of the time I can tell when it's like a defense mechanism or it's like I'm actually engaging with you. There's a lot of body language that and like facial expressions that go into that, which I do think most men are bad at. But I've like, because as I've said, I kind of like practice this, for lack of a better word. I think I'm at least better than most men at it. So
Wait, practice what? Practice what?
like practice socializing and like reflect on the feedback.
Okay, now I'm not a man,
Yeah.
but why do you feel like you have to practice?
Oh, because
Socialization.
charisma is a skill. Like vibe is a skill. It just I think like most men don't have good energy. Like how do you get better energy as a person? Like let's say you're a guy who's just kind of monotone and boring. And you're generally like you get like a nice to meet you pat on the shoulder when you approach women in public or wherever, or even on dates.
Right.
Like they could be from dating apps, it could be from anything. And you often get texts like, hey, you're a really nice guy, I'm just not feeling the spark. If you're that guy, like of course it would be nice to say, well, just be better. But like you can't just decide, okay, now I'm all of a sudden like I don't get those responses anymore, they actually like me, they actually want to date me, they want to keep going. There's a skill set there. Like flirting is a skill. So I used to be ashamed to admit that. Like that's such a weird thing to say. I have to practice flirting, but how else do you get better at it?
Yeah, I think flirting as a skill is different than socializing as a skill. Now, I think some of us are born with the ability to learn how to build rapport with people, to be able to pick up, be friendly, and things like that. But I think and I could be wrong, I'm not saying that what I say is law, but I think that is how it easily come across as being disingenuous because it's not a natural flow of conversation. And so this is when women's fight or flight should kick in because we don't know the difference between someone who is going to be, all we know is you're lying. That's all we know. Our hairs are standing up. That is telling us that this is not real. This is not true. You're putting on an act for some reason. We don't know why you're putting on an act. So I think it's a difference between but if you disagree, please let me know what you believe is okay about socialization, like practicing how to speak with people. Because I feel like it's a fine line between you come up, you see a pretty girl at the bar and you come up to her, you want to talk to her. Do you have certain things in mind that you say to everyone, or are there certain things that you gravitate? I don't know. I'm not a pickup artist. I don't, again, I give grace to men because in this society, that's men's role is to, most of the pickup energy is put on men. That is put the responsibility of the man. So I'm not faulting men for having it. It's just, is that I'm trying to understand, like, at what point is the disconnect that it is fake, that is not really real.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is like the primary skill, which I think it's weird to describe this as a skill, is being able to remove your own inner fighting with yourself enough that you actually can just be present and listen and respond. Because, like, most people would not agree that this is a skill. Tell me if you agree or disagree, but I think it's like, I fundamentally believe it's a skill to clear the clutter from your own brain enough so that, one, you can be empathetic, like you can actually see what you're getting back from the person that you're communicating with, and then two, that you have the freedom to kind of, like, flirting requires that you are fast, that you can, like, banter quickly, that, like, something happens or something is said and you can respond to it in real time, and it's not rehearsed because you just kind of go with the flow. And that is impossible if you're thinking in your brain, do I look cool? Like, does this shirt look good on me? Like, is there something on my face? Am I being weird right now? And if you're just thinking about how you're coming across, there's so little bandwidth left to actually engage with the interaction. But it would be really easy to tell men, like, yeah, just stop thinking about yourself and just do that. Like, that actually requires some work. And I think most people would say that's work that you do in front of your mirror or in your bedroom or by yourself, like alone, or maybe you like have a friend you do that with. But I think there's no better way to get better at that than to actually be doing it in real life, where like stimulus is happening in a crowded environment and you have to, like, your brain pings you with, I'm not focusing right now. And then it's kind of like, do you meditate? It's kind of like that. Like, you basically get good at recognizing that you're distracted. Like, to me, it's almost synonymous with meditating. Like, that you're trying to shorten the time where, because we all get distracted. Like, someone's talking to you and you start thinking about, like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? Or what did I, like, did I forget to turn the laundry, like, turn the dishwasher on or whatever? And the goal is to be able to cut that as quickly as possible and return to the thing that you're actually doing. And the easiest way for me and for people that I know to get that is to be in real conversations with real people where there's real stakes and become aware of how much your brain is getting in the way of yourself. So that is like, I do think maybe it needs a different word than skill, but I do kind of think it's a skill to do that.
Because I absolutely believe flirting is a skill.
Yeah.
I also believe that because I'm, like, for me, I'm a natural socializer. Like, I'm a natural, I can talk. I can always find something to find in common with anybody. So for me, this is more of my opinion, which I like to differentiate because I'm a natural gabber. I don't have issues with socialization, but I understand that other people do. So I can understand how it can come across, you know, as disingenuous. Now, flirting is absolutely a skill. I do believe flirting is a skill because things can get awkward. Like you said, it can be a lot going on in your brain and the stimulus of the crowd being around. A lot of stuff is going on around you. But I guess more so social, like the art of building rapport with someone.
Sure.
I'm naturally good at it. But if you're not, do you feel like you're naturally good at it?
No, like I was extremely shy in middle school and high school. I probably was not, like I would have considered myself an introvert in high school and an extrovert by the end of college. So like I flipped.
So what do you do now? Like, what was the switch? What was the change? Like, what do you do now when you go out that kind of give you the confidence to be able to talk to people?
Progressively, I mean, some of it is like the content that I've internalized, but it's, I think the two skills, it's like flirting, like types of things to say. I wouldn't say it's rehearsed lines, but it's like formats, just like styles of things to say.
Okay.
Like teasing,
That
whatever.
makes sense.
It's more like templates. But then it's also like presence is the main skill. And I think I was just more distracted. Like when you're shy in high school, all you're ever thinking about is, do they think I'm weird? Like you're just walking around, does everybody think I'm the weird kid? And once you get rid of that, you just start expressing yourself more. And like there's this example I've heard so many times of like the shyest person in your high school who never talks and never says anything to anyone goes home from school and in many cases puts on a headset and is playing Xbox against his friends and is screaming at the TV because he's in his comfort zone now, and the charisma and the personality of him in that setting is through the roof. And then he goes back to school and he's an introvert again, and it's just because when he's in his comfort zone, he is not worried how he's being perceived, and it's really just taking that person, like that mode, and just getting rid of what's blocking him so he can be that way all the time. Like that would be the simplest way I could describe like what men should be focusing on.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that, because if you struggle with like socialization, you are going to have certain key points that you take with you, and then have the courage to do it. That's admirable. When you actually are in the stimulus, when you're in the crowded bar, when you see someone, you're a little nervous to go up to them. So I do agree with that. I think, but I guess from what you're saying, basically you were trying to kind of use certain words in order to garner certain, and it works.
Sure.
It worked. I don't know.
Worked. It quote unquote worked.
It worked. Oh, okay. But so essentially, was how much of that, I guess, for you was, or did she do anything in general to make you feel like she was confused in terms of your reading of the situation, like that you were your best self? So maybe you hit all your points, you hit everything that you kind of practice in saying.
I guess I can be more specific about what was happening, because
not really. Like, I don't want you to get too specific, because
okay. Well, just at the moment where she said the thing that sounds like she's calling me fake, I think I've been called fake before, and almost every time I've been called fake, like anytime that I'm talking to a woman in a bar and she is like, "Oh, are you a comedian?" Like, I immediately know she's saying I'm a performer. Like, this is not the real you. Or an actor or something. Or they'll literally just say it sometimes. Like, oh, this is like, can you just drop the shtick? Like, you're just doing this is a bit. Like, I don't like it. Or you can just read it in their face. I've been called fake before, and I'm fully aware that it happens. Because sometimes I'll feel like, I don't know, it's just kind of the mood you're in. Like, you're not in a flow state, and you're trying to, like, force...
Yeah.
You want to force a good vibe. You're like, I like this person, I'm attracted to them, but I don't really know what to say right now, so I'm just kind of like making stuff up on the fly, like I'm playing class clown to try to get their approval. Right. That's happened many times. The reason I don't think that's what happened here is because of the way that she said the thing, and also that she didn't call me fake or disingenuous. She basically... I mean, this is the closest approximation that I can remember to the line, but you're saying all the right things, but I feel like you're doing it on purpose. I should have just taken that as more flirting, because I'm 95% sure that's what it was, and been like high five or something. Like, the way that I described it in the video is for me to basically, do like a cocky, like I'm God, or like make fun of it. Right? Which I think I don't describe well in the video. But whatever. Let's say the easiest version of that is I just give her a high five and say, like, I know, like, this is great. And then just keep talking about anything, which is what I mean by steamroll. Just, like, move on to the next logical step of the conversation. What happened is the thing she said got me in my head, because I was like, that's so interesting. No one's ever said something like that to me before. It was just, like, a different style of statement than I had ever received. And so we ended up just talking about the comment that she had made for like the next 3 minutes. And so that was why the vibe died, is because I made the rest of the interaction like a social skills experiment point. Like, I wanted to understand, like, why did you say that? And we just started talking about, and so instead of it being this like fun, flirty, bantery thing, it just became a logical discussion about like social skills. And so that's why it ended us with being, like, I think why it ended where we were more friendly and less romantic, because we just, like, the interaction went into logic mode, which is not, like, it doesn't normally elicit that. And I guess if we had, like, gone on a date another time, like, sure, like, that doesn't mean that you're not going to connect with someone if that's, but it's just the way that it worked out. She wasn't from the same town as me. She was visiting, and, like, we never talked again. So it was just one of those things. I just don't think that she was calling me fake then, but I certainly will acknowledge that I've been called fake before. Okay.
Is it as much, like, what kind of comes up for you? Because I feel like that's a lot of pressure to like, because I feel like you are carrying the weight of, like, trying to make sure the conversation stays in, because you said that's what kind of y'all talking about that for 3 minutes kind of made the
Hmm.
vibe go away. Do you feel like it's your responsibility to like keep the vibe? That sounds like a lot of pressure.
Yes, I think
uh
men who are naturals don't even register that. They just do it automatically. Like, that's what makes them
mm,
naturals. They just communicate in a way that always does that. And they don't even, like, if you ask someone who has been the popular kid since fourth grade how they do that, they have no idea. Like, they couldn't tell you, but that's what they're doing. They're so good at it that it's just an innate skill. It's like asking Steph Curry how he shoots a basketball. He's like, I just shoot it. Like, he's just always been good at it.
right.
So I would say for me, who's not a natural, the first 6, maybe to 12 months that I was socializing regularly, because I sort of had a very like to script pandemic experience where I was living at home with my parents and I was working from home, and I basically had 3 years where I wasn't out that much. And then when I went back, I made it like a conscious practice to like get back to normal. The first handful of months of that, it was a lot of pressure, and I had a lot of weird interactions where a lot of strange things were said to me that I just had not experienced before. And from whatever teachings I've gotten from the internet and like a couple of programs that I've taken, I had enough motivation to like push through that. I'm like, you'll internalize how to do that faster, where there's not so much pressure on it at a certain point. But 100%,
Okay.
like, it was a bit weird for a while. And I think at this point now, it's a very small percentage of my mind is fixated on like keep the vibe going. It kind of is just automatic.
Okay. Okay. But just your that you were cognizant of it changing the vibe
Yeah,
from you talking about that means it's in your awareness, which is crazy to me. It's like not bad or anything, but that's like crazy that you have to
sure.
like be super aware. But that's why this is why context matters, because now intentions is a whole different thing. So of course I'm always advise women to make decisions based off whatever their intuition is telling them. But I do understand more with context, like the place that you were coming from in terms of having to hold a conversation, in terms of, not being as much of a social person and kind of having a format for how you engage. There's nothing inherently wrong with that, of course, because
Yeah.
if you how do you learn? You're never going to meet, if you want to meet people, you're not very social or you are socially awkward, you gotta find a way, a solution. So that's a solution, but it makes more sense with context.
The thing I'll say too about paying attention to the vibe is that
Mhm.
I think women on average are equivalent of the men who are naturals. Like, women
Mm,
consciously are aware of the vibe all the time. And I think like you don't just put words to it often, but
okay.
I would
Yeah.
imagine like if you did a freeze frame in the middle of some nightclub or some bar,
Hmm.
and you saw like, I don't know, maybe there's like a 20 minutes long interaction where like a guy had approached someone, and she's like, pause her and like pull her aside and be like, what's the vibe of this interaction right now? Maybe give her like a minute. She'd be like, oh yeah, I feel like he really wants me to like him, or something like that, or I feel like I really want him to like me. And there's some kind of dynamic that I think almost all women are aware of, and it's just not often articulated because it just doesn't, like, it doesn't come up in the moment because the guy is
Yeah.
rarely asking about it because they're not aware of it. But there's always some kind of like vibe check happening, I think, internally for women. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's just the words are not often put to it. So I don't think I'm doing anything that is that out of the ordinary. I think the only thing that is weird that I'm doing is speaking about it, but I don't think noticing it is that abnormal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely speaking about it kind of isolated. So, whereas in if you just didn't speak about it, it wouldn't be under a microscope.
Yeah.
Um, but I do see the importance of having said format, but I also see how it could come across as like not as disingenuous, but you still got to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to socialize, you still got to do it.
Well, I've
So,
made another video since where it's basically like the paradox for men is that they have
mhm.
to actually rehearse how to behave, but they can't convey that it's rehearsed. And a lot of men will say this is too hard of a challenge. Like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'd rather just never date again. But, like, the only way is, like, if you're not naturally good at that,
Right.
that's the only answer. Like, you have to actually practice, but you don't want to seem like you're someone who's practicing.
Right. So, through the lens of a man, do you know how, or do you feel like there will be some sort of consequences to learning how to genuinely like kind of go into the world? Now, I'm aware of the different socialization and the different like expectations for men and women, so it's more pressure on men. Um but then how do you know if the vibe is actually connecting, if you're performing? Like, do you feel like it's consequences, whether socially or whatever, for actually coming into a situation authentically, organically? Now, a bar situation is a little bit different. You got to be quick on your feet. You got
Right.
to say something that's engaging to get her attention. But if you're like in an engagement where if you meet somebody in a more quiet place, is there a separator for entering the engagement organically, where you are being yourself and not, because it's a thin line. If you're not a good social person, if you don't know what to say,
Yeah.
if you get kind of my drift, like,
Yeah. I mean, you certainly want to calibrate to the situation, like the setting you're in. Like, don't treat no guy should be told, treat every situation in your life like you're in a bar. But I think being yourself, I do find to be sort of a confusing piece of advice because, like, the guy who is really shy in his high school but then is really expressive playing Xbox, that guy is being himself in both situations. It's just different
very
versions of
true,
himself.
very
Like,
true.
and on some level, the person of him that's quiet is less himself than the one who's screaming at his television at home, because I do think being yourself is just like it's a moving target. It's you can only be what yourself is feeling in that moment. Like, it's not
Yeah.
there's a real you and it's the same everywhere. There's an there's an instinct to behave differently in different situations. So, like,
Okay.
if I'm standing in front of a room giving a speech at like a birthday party, myself is going to be a little more performative authentically because, like, the
Right.
task is to perform. So is it being fake to like do an impression if I'm like trying to be funny? If the task is to be funny, I just think it's very like it's like be yourself is it's like the best advice and the worst advice that there is simultaneously.
Yeah, I agree. Do you feel like it ever costs you, like emotionally? Do you ever think, like, because I don't know, do you feel like it costs you emotionally to have to shift so much?
I mean, I do make it sound like I'm aiming for perfection in every situation. That's not really close to true. I think in a very
Of
extreme
course.
scenario like the one that I made the video about,
Right.
and even that, like, I reflected on it. The video I posted was a full month after it happened. So a lot of these times, like, I'm not there doing that in the moment. I'm either doing it the next day or maybe a few days later or a week later or a couple weeks later. Like, that's typical. I think the emotional cost of like modulating your behavior that consciously all the time, like, for sure, if that's what you're asking, like, that would be quite exhausting and it would definitely make you a very stressed person.
Yeah.
So I'm
Because
not trying to say that like
after a
be
while of
conscious
doing
of what
this,
you're doing all the time in every second, but I think be conscious of
yeah.
everything that you've done that struck a chord with someone, positive or negative. But like,
Uh-huh.
there's a time for reflection, and it's not always immediate.
Okay. Because you made a really good video. When I was looking at some of your videos, you made a video about something about us being like, not, there's no such thing as being authentic or something like that. Something along the lines you said, where
Yep.
you are different people in front of, which is a really good thought. But you said something about us having to, we're never authentic or something. You have to be different people at work, different people with your parents, different people with your friends, or something like that.
Yeah. So the point about you can't literally be 100% authentic is similar to my point that
Mm-hmm.
you can't actually know yourself fully, which is a different video I made. It's what I was talking about before. Like, you can't fundamentally explain every choice you've ever made because, and I'll say this as cleanly as I can say it because free will is a topic that can go on for hours, if not days,
Mm-hmm.
but you can you can decide what you do, but you can't
Mm-hmm.
decide what you will. Like, you have conscious choice over your actions, but you don't have conscious choice over your desires. Like, that's just there.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, everything that you do stems from something that is just built into you. Like, no one can decide whether they, like, if there's a food that is repulsive to you, you can't, like, when you don't eat it, that's not really a choice. Like, your biology made you hate that. So I do think that, like, that principle applies to everything emotionally, where it's just like,
Mm-hmm.
I can't know the root cause of anything there, but you
Right.
can get close, you can approximate it. I just think, like, this is more of a mathematical point. Like, when I go on, like, nerd
Mm-hmm.
mode, this is where I go, and some of my videos just are that.
Which is good because you're thinking. And I think a lot of people don't think, men and women alike, just kind of do, and then have a certain expectation to those actions. But I really like that video. I did like that video that you made about we have to be different people, but I think we're complex personally.
Yeah.
So I think that is that, and like you said a few minutes ago, the same guy that's shy and not saying anything in school, both of those are his personalities.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that is authenticity. Maybe you just, now which one doesn't work for you? If you don't like the uncomfortability of not being able to communicate with your peers and having to quiet yourself down because it's less of a, then it becomes a choice of whether you learn to show up differently or you don't. And I think that's a choice that we all can choose to make. Whatever we choose to do is up to us. So I don't think we should really assign good or bad to it, right or wrong to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that is authenticity, in my opinion. That is a level of authenticity because we're complex. We're not simple. Like
Yeah.
there is no way. There is no way. And that made me think, I am a different person with my parents than I am with my friends, than I am with my siblings, than I am with my coworkers. So I appreciated that thought. But I mean, context definitely helps. Did you have like anything else that you kind of wanted to
Um,
point out or say?
well, maybe I'll just plug this. It's not out yet, but I actually did a podcast 2 days ago with two
Mm-hmm.
female friends, and one of them is actually pretty well versed in red pill stuff. So we
Mm.
actually did kind of a debate. Um,
Okay,
and that
because I thought
perspective
she
was
was
good
red
to.
pill. I thought she was red pill.
Yeah, no, maybe we'll just talk about that briefly. Like, I would
Yeah.
say that 80% of what's put out by Red Pill I find just wrong. Like, there's a kernel of
Mm-hmm.
truth in there, um,
Right. Right.
but, like, that's not the stuff I'm consuming.
Okay.
So, like, I know those people. Like, I've seen their content. Like, Andrew Tate is not someone that I find interesting.
Right.
Um, but it just was, we were kind of debating, like, the ethics of pickup artists who, like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't consider myself that, but I'm familiar with those people. And, like, in kind of an ideal world, like, you would want a highly skilled pickup artist, like, as a woman, you would want that person who's like the equivalent of the benevolent dictator, was kind of the point I was making. But on
Mm-hmm.
balance, you can't actually scan for that. Like, you don't know you're in the presence of an evil dictator or a benevolent dictator until the
Yes.
moment that they chop your head off. Like, you just can't know that. So, like, it's not practical for anyone to behave that way because nobody's winning if that's the framework. Is like, I know what's best for you, shut up, let me make all our decisions. Like, that just
Mm-hmm.
is not practically going to work for anybody. And even if one out of every 50 men who speak that way, there's one guy who he's like, the reason he's saying I know what's best for you is because he does actually know what's best, like that's the exception, not the rule, and like no one can operate, like a society can't operate where people are thinking they're that. But anyway, like it was good to get, like, because I've gotten more female perspective on red pill content in the last 2 weeks than I have gotten in my whole life. Like I know what I thought about it, but I've just gotten, and I guess I've like become more aware of how much of it is out there, and also like the ways that it's both fairly represented and unfairly represented. And, like, how some things, because of a close association, which I think is what happened here, like, I seem to be saying a lot of things, and I sort of, like, some of that's my fault for sure. I seem to be saying things that put me in this category, so now I'm like, okay, this is, like, now I'm aware of why that's happening.
Okay. I mean, and as a content creator, you'll quickly find out that there is no way to say something perfectly, because people are always going to run with it, because again, they don't have context to, I don't particularly believe that overall it changed my message, but context helped to, validate your experience and sort of understand a lot more where you were coming from. And that does not, I don't ever paint anyone good or bad. But I do say make, very clear decisions with little to no information if you need to, but it does clear up like your intentions, which unfortunately is not something a woman you meet in the bar or even a woman you are out on a date with will actually know. But what was the conversation that you had on the podcast with the two women that you said, well, one was very versed in red pill content? What was kind of the conversation?
Well, I think that maybe what was most interesting about it was talking about like whether it's a good strategy, whether it's right to, and like I've seen a couple people have commented this on here, is whether like I should be more careful in how I describe things as to not be grouped there. Because there wasn't much discussion about what red pill, like if it's good or bad, because we kind of just agree on that. It was more like, is it a problem for me to let what I'm saying potentially be thrown there, like grouped in there? And I think a couple things. One is that like all of the comments on my video, this one, are women. Like men aren't even there. Like I don't think that the men who could use what I'm saying for harm really watch the sort of like maybe it's just because I don't have enough followers yet. I don't know. So like I'm still working through that myself, and that was part of what we talked about. Like, should I be more careful with what I say? But like honestly, the fact that I made it more vague got more people to watch it. It got you to see it. It got you to make a video that almost 1 million people have seen, and now we're doing this. And so to say like it was a bad thing that I let that be out there, like I don't know. I feel like this is a net positive for sure. So in a future situation, while I again like misrepresent a story to make it blow up to then be able to clarify what I'm saying, like I don't know actually. Like I probably, there's nothing I'm going to do that will be intentionally that extreme, because even this one was not intentionally that extreme. But I do think sort of being a little vague to give people a chance to debate something is often better than just spelling it out, because spelling it out kind of puts people on autopilot sometimes. But if you kind of have to think, what is this guy saying? Like, is this the worst thing I've ever heard? Is this reasonable? And they actually have to think. I think it clicks your brain into a different gear, and it actually is more useful that way. So none of what I just said is like 100% I'm sticking to that opinion, but that's just like, that's what I'm working through in my mind. That's kind of what we talked about on the episode.
Yeah, which makes sense. If you are in a position where you are trying to grow your platform, it's wise in terms of growth. If you don't care about the feedback, if you don't care about people agreeing, it's wise to say certain triggering comments, certain triggering statements. And triggering doesn't mean automatically bad. It's like you said, just leave it open for interpretation.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience. Like one of my videos I talked about without telling. It's very interesting. It's almost like a social experiment on accident. Where I said the purpose of like bridesmaids and all that, the things that deal with the wedding, but I didn't actually say what the purpose was. And it got so much engagement because I didn't actually spell it out. So I 100% agree with that, particularly if your intention is to grow your platform and kind of get eyes on you. Yeah.
Because ultimately, nothing you say, at least on social media, matters if it doesn't actually get to an audience. Like, you could be making the best points that anyone's ever made, but if 7 people see it, then who cares? And I guess there's an
Right.
argument that if what you're saying is so important, eventually the audience will find it. But, like, we're not going to wait 12 years for the audience to find it. So
Right.
it's a balance.
Right.
Like, you want to say something that is really true and good and it's like the best you can say it, but then sort of skew it a little to like get it in front of people faster because you're playing both games at the same time. You're trying to be truthful, but you're also trying to get people to see it. So like I'm
Right.
not saying I don't care what the feedback is. I'm saying I'm weighing the feedback against like how there's like a battle between honesty and virality. And so like
Right.
sometimes a bit of negative feedback is worth it, but I'm not saying I'm completely indifferent to the feedback.
Right. Right. Agreed. I mean, clearly, because we did not agree with you. And here you are. So that's a skill set in period. Like that's a good skill set to have to be able to, take that and kind of, transmute it into something that works for you. I'm glad it worked for you, and I'm glad you were able to use that to even your advantage, because even in my video, my intent is not to make anyone in particular feel bad, although ultimately I feel like my message is important in that moment. But
Sure.
I'm glad you got something out of it.
I mean,
I'm
my
always
reaction to
about,
seeing your video, because I think it had been up for 4 days before someone sent it to me, was like, oh, cool, I'm famous now. Like, it was great. So, like, I was like, sure, it's negative, but, like, this is going to be a good opportunity now. So, I kind of thought that we would agree on most things once we actually talked through it, because I knew how, like, inaccurate my telling of what happened was. So I was like, once we actually talk through it, we're not going to disagree on very much.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not about the personal attack, so it wasn't about you specifically, more so of what that represented. But of course, context do change that a lot. Okay, was there anything else, or were there any comments or anything that you wanted to respond to?
I feel like the main themes of comments we've gotten to, like, why should you need to have a 10 out of 10 version of yourself? Like, isn't that fake if you have different modes? And then a lot of comments, honestly, a lot of comments were just kind of copy and paste of things that you said, which I realized when I watched your video, because a lot of my comments I didn't realize that came to my video directly were a lot of very much the same exact phrases. And then when I watched yours, I was like, okay, this makes sense. They're just, like, these are not original ideas. They're just giving me your ideas. So, like, now that I've talked to you, I feel like I understand all the comments.
Yeah, yeah. And I also mean more so like the comments in here. Did you see any? I don't know if you were, paying attention. Did you see anything? Or I'll give you you can take your time and scroll and kind of see.
I've kind of been watching them as they're coming through. Yeah, I think most people kind of get what we're doing.
Yeah. Because I believe in listening. I don't believe in because you don't understand people and where they're coming from if you don't listen to them, and if you don't kind of understand where they're coming from. But yeah, I mean, I guess if you saw any comments or anything in here that you wanted to address, you could. But other than that, I mean, I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I do agree with the sentiment that like social media is rewarding triggering an audience, and so we're sort of like we're subject to the whims of the algorithm, and like our behavior is heavily influenced by that because like there's actual money at stake to get the algorithm to boost you. So I don't know, that's just like a thing we all have to, like anyone who makes content regularly and like starts to develop a real following, like we're all weighing that. And not to say like feel bad for us, I'm just saying like this is an inevitable reality that we all face. And it would be easy to say like if I were you, I would never, like I used to think I would never do clickbait. And then I tried it one time and I'm like, it's almost like a drug. You're like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, it really is incredible. So you kind of have to like have the right dose of it, I think is the summary of that I would give.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I do clickbait, but it can be clickbait. You know, sometimes you don't intend for it to be clickbait, but then that video I mentioned was absolutely clickbait about the marriage and everything without telling them. But sometimes it helps. That's the name of the game.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of have to come. It happens to all of us. You kind of got to deal with people misreading, misconstruing your message and all of that. And I appreciate you for not like flying off the handle or being angry about it, which I can't even say I would necessarily react that way.
Sure.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
But
No, I appreciate us doing this, and yeah, it just seemed obvious to me that we were going to be able to like be fairly civil. So
I agree. I agree. And then I watched like some of your videos, and I'm also philosophical, so I like a thinker. A thinker is not gonna be super ignorant. Even if we don't agree or we see things differently, you're not gonna be super ignorant because you obviously think about the things that you say, which is ultimately, important. One of the
yeah.
most important things. So yeah. I don't think too many people had really any questions not worth really answering. Hold on, TikTok is trying to kick me off. Okay. But all right. Well, I appreciate you showing up, and us speaking and everything. Um, and I hope your platform grows.
Thank you. Same to you, and thank you for like listening to these
You're
long-winded
welcome.
explanations that I give. I know it's not concise most of the time. So
It's
anyone
all
who's
right.
watched this whole thing, like, I appreciate you too.